Good morning. Welcome to the Daily Fantasy Whiff. I'm Big Italy 42. He is at BChad50, Josh Shepardson, and we are here talking about tonight's GPP action. We're talking about fades and stacks. So we're talking about, pitchers we're targeting, pitchers we're not targeting, the ones that we're targeting heavily. Maybe one is named after a certain kind of cheese. You may be a fan of the cheese, not a fan of the pitcher. A lot of things going on tonight. Lots of guys that we want to take advantage of that are pitching above their means. Colby Lewis. And we'll get to that in a minute. But without further ado, how you want to do this, Josh? You want to start game by game up from the top for tonight?
We can do that. Yep, sounds good to me.
All right, let's go ahead and start off here then with one of the more interesting ones. The Los Angeles Angels at the Baltimore Orioles. And this one's got a 9-run total. Ubaldo Jimenez in for Bud Norris. He's a minus 128 favorite in this one over Matt Shoemaker. And kind of the opposites with these two. Jimenez doing a great job keeping the ball on the ground this year, and Matt Shoemaker doing a great job of not keeping the ball on the ground this year with almost 50% fly ball rate. 9-run total at Camden Yards tells you that they're expecting some big-time run production from both sides here, and I think you and I are in agreement here that if you're going to stack one side of this game, not saying you can't stack both sides, but Baltimore's the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, Shoemaker's propensity for giving up fly balls makes him a pretty easy target. They have two right-handed batters in Manny Machado and Adam Jones, who will be hitting in the top 4 spots in the lineup somewhere. Machado should be leading off. Jones should be hitting third, but Buck sometimes moves his lineup around a little bit. But both have reverse platoon splits, so you're actually getting a favorable matchup with the righty. And then you've got the left-handed bats that are going to give Shoemaker some problems. Jimmy Paredes, Chris Davis, definitely some power there. And that's really what you're chasing here. Get a couple guys on base, have somebody clear them for you, and get some big points that way. I definitely like the O's. On the FanDuel Punch-Out, you mentioned Caleb Joseph as a catching option, so there is some length there. If you're on DraftKings, you can grab 6 hitters for a stack. So I definitely like the O's side of things. On the other side, I mean, I'm certainly not using Ubaldo Jimenez, but I'm also not necessarily actively targeting him. There just are not a lot of left-handed bats that have much value in that Angels lineup. I like Cole Calhoun. You can always like Mike Trout as a righty against anybody, but I mean, Pujols is a significantly worse hitter against righties than lefties in recent seasons. So not a lineup that I really feel super comfortable stacking. I do think you want to grab some shares of Calhoun, maybe get some pieces because the total's so high, but just not a lineup that I'm going to be stacking. And if good Ubaldo shows up and he's keeping the ball on the ground and filling the strike zone, you could be in a world of trouble. I mean, they were tied up by a lefty yesterday in Wei-Yin Chen, and I mean, you got to have a short memory in daily fantasy, but I mean, they should have hit left-handed pitching. They're getting a righty today, so I'm not a big fan of using the Angels as a stack.
Yeah, and they also only managed 2 runs against Kyle Kendrick the other day. So just furthering that point, they're really not hitting anyone particularly well. And if you're looking at Matt Shoemaker, it seems on the surface that outside of the fly ball rate, he's pitching pretty well recently. But when you look at the teams he's faced, Seattle twice, who's a bottom 5 offense against right-handed pitching. Oakland twice, they rocked him both times. And then he's faced Houston and scored 1 fantasy point, getting rocked over 3 innings, and they're an average team. Now he gets the Baltimore Orioles, who just so happen to be the 3rd best team in the major leagues against right-handed pitching. Massive team ISO 183, 333 team WOBA. So, I mean, like I said, if you dig deeper, it doesn't look like a very good matchup for him at all. The only thing he's got going for him is that the Orioles are striking out 23% of the time against righties, but that's about it for him.
Yeah.
All right, so that's kind of settles that one. I'm with you. Pick and choose your Angels bats. I don't think it's worth a full stack here tonight. Arizona at Philadelphia is your next game. And we got Archie Bradley coming back from that scary line drive to the face, his first return back here, going up against the beast that is Jerome Williams that scares no one. An absolute pick'em between young pitcher who walks too many batters, who knows where his confidence level is now, and not a young pitcher who's just kind of been a guy who just goes out there and pitches. He's not great. He's not awful. But he's certainly a guy that you can pick on with some of these really good Arizona bats tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, this isn't an area where I would normally stack, but Williams isn't terribly tough on right-handed batters, so guys like Paul Goldschmidt, who is very expensive on FanDuel, very expensive on DraftKings, Really, the only place I'm using him is in stacks, probably because it's going to be tough to budget with him with some of the pricier pitchers on the slate. But definitely a viable option. Love David Peralta hitting behind him. Don't know what's going to hit in front of him. Could be Ender Inciarte and AJ Pollock again. Mark Trumbo could be in the lineup. Who knows? But right-handed power plays really well at Citizens Bank Park. So this is a viable stack, even though you usually would think, Jerome Williams, you want a lot of left-handed bats against him, but you're not getting them. But these righties, okay against right-handed pitchers, and Jerome Williams not super tough against right-handed hitters. So definitely a viable stack. On the other side, Philly's not really a very good lineup. In fact, they are terrible against right-handed pitching, but I'm going to want to get some shares against Archie Bradley. Already struggled with walks. Do have to wonder how he's going to respond after getting hit with a comebacker. So I want some left-handed bats, but I just can't see a full-blown stack that I'm going to like unless there's no way that Ryan Sandberg can throw out a lineup that I'm going to like because they just don't have enough hitters that I like, in short. So I'll keep tabs on where guys are hitting. Maybe you get some one-offs from this game from the Phillies, but I can't see a stack.
No, I'm with you there. I think Ryan Howard's an interesting tournament option because he still has power. That's about all he has. That and a terrible contract. But at 2,900 on FanDuel, I don't think he's a bad option. You hate to fill up your first base spot with a guy like Ryan Howard, but in a tournament, obviously anything goes. You want to get yourself some power upside, and he certainly possesses that. And I'm with you on the Arizona side. Not much of a park downgrade, really, going to Citizens Bank from Chase Field. So many people might think that it is. It really isn't. It's a very marginal one. So definitely some runs could be scored in this one. I'm a big fan. All right, let's move on here back to Cincinnati, where we saw a lot of runs last night and a 7.5 run total. And looking once again, 7.5 run total. You got a pretty good. I mean, there's no Madison Bumgarner on the mound tonight, but Mike Leake has been efficient. He's not a big strikeout pitcher. He's a good ground ball pitcher. Struggles with lefties, though. Then you got Ryan Vogelsong, who I don't think is a very good pitcher at all. He also struggles with lefties. Also not so great against righties. So when you put all these factors together, that tells you that there's certainly some upside to be had. And especially these Reds lefty bats and guys like Todd Frazier with some big power, certainly stacking the Reds. And, I don't know that I'm necessarily going to stack the Giants, but there's certainly some spots like Buster Posey and Brandon Belt who are in a great spot to produce tonight against Mike Leake.
Yeah, I mean, of the two, obviously, if you're stacking, you're going to be grabbing the Red side. They have Billy Hamilton leading off, switch hitter, so you're going to get a left-handed bat against Vogelsong. Second, we expect Marlon Byrd to hit there. Zach Cozart occasionally moves up there against lefties, but we get a righty on the hill, so I'm guessing Byrd hits second. Don't love the righty-righty matchup, but you love right-handed power at Great American Ballpark, so he's fine. Joey Votto's our top play at first base, so obviously if we like Hamilton to get on, we like Votto to damage it from the 3-hole, you got the makings of a nice stack there. Behind them, Todd Frazier, one of the best power hitters in the game right now. Right-handed power plays at Great American Ballpark. So you got 4 nice guys that you can stack at FanDuel. You can extend that to 6 at DraftKings. Somewhere in there we expect to see Jay Bruce, who has struggled, but a left-handed batter with power against Ryan Vogelsong. Pretty good matchup. On the other side with the Giants, plenty of left-handed bats we'd expect to see to give Leake some problems. Whether it's Blanco going back out and leading off again or Aoki, you got one of the two who are left-handed kicking things off. Joe Panik should hit second. Played well last night. Not a huge ceiling, but again, another left-handed bat against Leake. Switch hitter Angel Pagan hitting third, so you're going to get a lefty against Leake again. And then comes up Posey. Now, is he left-handed against Leake? No. Can we forgive him because he's Buster Posey? Absolutely. Brandon Belt's price point went down at FanDuel. We like him. I mean, even if you're not going full-blown stack with the Giants, hooking some players, maybe getting some mini stacks makes sense here. And even Brandon Crawford, left-handed batter, maybe he slides up to 6th in the order or something like that. Maybe you go a 4 through 6 mini stack. Like, you've got options. You definitely want to get some pieces from this game. You want to get a piece of Great American Ballpark. The power is just immense there, and I certainly like both sides of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to further that right there, I mean, you want power bats, especially here. So, like you said, some of these Giants batters, some of the guys like Gregor Blanco, Angel Pagan, those guys really not worth playing here. Obviously, not much upside. And Mike Leake's tough run righties. But, yeah, definitely the big bats. And Brandon Crawford at a really thin shortstop position could be a really interesting tournament play tonight as well. So I'm with you there. All right, next up we have the New York Yankees at the Kansas City Royals. This one's going to be an interesting one. As we know, the Royals don't strike out a lot. They somehow, just even with all their lefty bats, have been really good against lefties. But CC Sabathia has been on both sides here. He's had some really good outings. He's had some really bad outings. I've seemed to be on the wrong side of each one of those outings. So, with that being said, I'm not playing CC Sabathia against the Royals. I don't like playing anyone against the Royals. They don't strike out. They've got power and speed. But I do like the Yankees a lot, and I think that both sides are viable stacks here tonight.
Yeah, I definitely like a Yankee stack against Duffy. Duffy struggles with right-handed batters. The Yankees have a handful of options. I love A-Rod at third base. He's my top play at the position tonight. They got switch hitters like Chase Headley and also Mark Teixeira to give Duffy some problems. The left-handed hitting outfielders in Gardner and Ellsbury, better against righties, but you know what? We're not talking about guys that are reliant on really driving the ball. These guys can slap the ball around a little bit. So they're fine table setters, even in a lefty-lefty matchup. So I do think there's some stack potential there with the Yankees. I can't seem to get it right picking against Sabathia either, but I'll be curious to see what Ned Yost's lineup looks like tonight. I'd love to see Locane hitting 2. He did during Mike Moustakas' bereavement leave, so maybe he goes back up there against a lefty today. The problem is a lot of the better batters for the Royals are left-handed. So it would take a pretty unique lineup construction from Yost for me to really like a stack. I like pieces, but I just don't think they're going to string enough right-handed bats up there against Sabathia for me to find a full-blown stack that I like. But maybe some mini stacks, maybe hooking some guys. Same idea as kind of we outlined with the Giants.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you there. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are in good spots, nobody in great spots, like you said, and like you mentioned with the Kansas City bats, a lot of them lefties, but some of them have been hitting lefties better this year than they have in their careers. So, I mean, interesting side of this one. It won't be one of my favorite stacks, but like you said, definitely viable for some mini stacks, especially on FanDuel where we can only play 4 anyway. Maybe throw in both sides of this one with your top pitcher, something like that, because most of them aren't that expensive, especially the Royals. All right, next up, Toronto at Houston. This one's going to be a fun one for tournaments. We've got Marco Estrada against Scott Feldman. Neither one very good pitcher, especially Marco Estrada. Gives up a ton of home runs, one of the worst rates in the league. Minus 121 favorite for Scott Feldman. You don't really care about that. What you're looking at here is the 8.5 run total. And I'm a big fan of a lot of the Houston bats here. Toronto bats, I think, are going to be a sneaky stack as well. Scott Feldman's okay sometimes, but he's not very consistent. I mean, you got guys like George Springer, Luis Valbuena, Evan Gattis. I know we like all of those guys as big-time upside plays here tonight. And even Chris Carter, he's nice and cheap on both sites. He's got some big-time upside as well.
Yeah, Houston looks like a pretty darn good stack or a great outlet for grabbing some one-offs to supplement your stacks. Anytime a pitcher is homer-prone like Estrada, that's a great place to turn to like I said, to supplement or complement your stacks. I mean, if you're grabbing some stacks from that Kansas City game, the Cincinnati game, maybe throw an Evan Gattis in there because he is facing a homer-prone pitcher and hope that he is the guy that takes Estrada deep or one of the guys that takes Estrada deep. Don't necessarily think you have to stack to get value from this, but also wouldn't fault you if you did, because if Estrada does give up base runners, it's going to turn into a multi-run homer, basically. He is about the safest bet in the business to give up a long ball, so definitely want to get some Astros. Can stack them depending on how the lineup shakes out. Against Feldman, it is kind of a sneaky stack to go with the Blue Jays. I mean, everybody knows that the Blue Jays hitters are very talented, but most of them are much better against left-handed pitchers than righties. Yep. So you're going to see some people probably shy away from those bats tonight. If you are a person who is crazy and paying down for pitching tonight, maybe be contrarian and grab this Blue Jays stack. Grab your Devin Travis, your Josh Donaldson, Jose Bautista, Edwin Encarnacion. They all have power potential. They're all hitting at Minute Maid Park, which amplifies home runs to righties and lefties alike. So definitely some viability there. The price points make it very difficult to stack them, though, if you are going to use one of the pricier pitchers tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are that crazy person, you might as well keep going contrarian because you already aren't paying for the top arms. So might as well go all the way with it. And next game up, we have the Mets and the Brewers. This one's kind of interesting because we've got Jacob deGrom at home against the Milwaukee offense. It strikes out a lot, but at times, as we saw last night, they can really get it going. Matt Garza on the other side, not a guy that I trust. Not the pitcher that he once was. He's walked 3 or more batters in 4 of 6 starts this year. Had a good start last time out against the Cubs, but that was also against the Cubs, and they strike out a ton. A lot of that was weighted by 9 Ks. You mentioned deGrom as an interesting tournament play. I'm with you as well. I think he's solid. But with that being said, since some people will be on Jacob deGrom, there are some big bats that can punish people on the Milwaukee side, and I'm not trying to pick on deGrom, especially with right-handed bats, because he's been really tough on righties. But I don't know, this one's tough, because like we said, the Brewers can go off, but they could also get completely shut down. So for me, I think it's mostly an avoid, maybe a single if you're playing a bunch of tournament stacks.
Yeah, I'm certainly not going to stack from this at all. It took us only getting through 5 games before we got to a pitcher that we could gush a little bit about.
Yep.
And I mean, this is tepid compared to what you're going to hear about the other pitchers coming up here pretty soon. But Jacob deGrom, I do like him in GPPs tonight. He is facing a Brewers offense that just hasn't been very good against right-handed pitching this year. Part of that's that Gomez has missed time, but part of that's that they're very right-handed heavy. deGrom certainly capable of tying that lineup up. I do like some left-handed bats against Garza. Maybe Terry Collins throws out a bit of an odd lineup tonight. We'll see where Murphy hits. We know Granderson should lead off. We know that Duda should be hitting cleanup for them. So maybe there is some stack potential there if, say, Murphy moves up to the 2-hole instead of hitting 5th.
Yeah.
You look at a Granderson, Murphy, Kadire, Duda lineup arrangement. That looks pretty stackable to me. But
yeah.
We've seen Murphy hitting 5th predominantly this year, so I'm not sure that we're going to see that. It's certainly something I would keep an eye on because Garza does struggle with left-handed batters. But otherwise, unless there's some lineup juggling that I don't foresee, it's more of grabbing some one-offs from this game than full-blown stacking at all.
Yeah, and that's a perfect transition into our next game where get all the stacks you can get against Mr. Colby Lewis. You can be a believer all you want in Colby Lewis. You will never convince me until the day I die that this man is a good pitcher now. Cleveland Indians, 9-run total here. We got Danny Salazar, another interesting thing to talk about here. 9-run total, Salazar minus 132 favorite. And as we know, Colby Lewis, one of the worst in the game against left-handed batters. And he's been better so far this year, but I'm not buying it. Love the Indians. Lonnie Chisenhall, Michael Brantley, Carlos Santana, Brandon Moss, whoever you want to get here. And on the flip side of things, don't play any Texas bats because Danny Salazar is a buzzsaw right now. He is mowing through people. 37.2% strikeout rate. Massive upside for him in tournaments.
Yeah, Danny Salazar priced to own $8,700. Probably going to be a very popular GPP pick, but that doesn't mean that you should be fading him. The fact that there are other aces on the docket, which probably feels odd since we haven't talked about any aces yet. They're coming, I promise. They should keep Salazar's ownership at a reasonable rate where you really don't have to fade him. The other aces will keep that ownership at a level where you can feel comfortable trotting him out there even if he is super popular. Strikeout upside is immense. He's leading the league in strikeouts and by a wide margin. Leading the league in swinging strike rate by a wide margin. Really just blowing hitters away right now. Rangers can punch out with the best of them. Colby Lewis, as you said, stack the hell out of the Indians against him. The beauty of this very lefty-dominant Indians lineup is you've got some options to stack here, and that will allow you to be contrarian in a lot of ways. You don't have to necessarily be contrarian by stacking a different game. No, just pick a different part of the Indians' order than others are grabbing. Maybe don't go 1 through 4. Maybe go 3 through 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Or maybe go 2 through whatever. Yeah. But get your pieces. Make sure Brantley is in your stack. Love Santana as well. Like Brandon Moss's home run upside. Great ballpark here at Texas for offense, so really like that as well. I'm going to be grabbing some Indian stacks, and I see no reason not to. I certainly hope, as someone who's going to be gaming fairly heavily tonight, that people are drinking the Colby Lewis Kool-Aid, because I really do like donations. It'll be like free overlay with actual people in tournaments, but yeah, go ahead and grab your Colby Lewis shares, and please find me someplace, and hopefully we can play some games together.
Yeah, free money like all the people who didn't play Kershaw in cash games like last night. You lost, and no one to blame but yourself. And one more thing about Salazar, especially on FanDuel, with so many aces on the mound, I think he is going to have a pretty low ownership considering his upside. So if there was ever a night to take down Danny Salazar, it's one where you've got Max Scherzer and Felix Hernandez and Zach Greinke on the mound. So either way.
All of whom we still have to talk about, which is crazy that the way that the schedule lined up.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they saved it for prime time. We've got almost all 9 o'clock start times with these guys. Major League Baseball, I mean, sometimes they get it right.
Yeah, and the good thing is we're through most of the legitimate stacks by now, and the transition now goes into Washington at San Diego. Max Scherzer minus 130 favorite against Andrew Kashner, 6.5 run total. I will be playing a grand total of one hitter from this game, and that'll be Bryce Harper in tournaments, and that is it.
Yep, ditto. I'm not grabbing any other hitters from either side. Cashner's a fine pitcher. Maybe you get him in some GPPs based on wanting to be contrarian. His ownership should be tiny tonight. Pitching at home, so he's backed by pitcher-friendly Petco Park. And with the way that Washington's been putting runs on the board, people are going to fade him. I'm probably not going to grab any Cashner shares because I would actually rather go contrarian by grabbing Scherzer, who's $11,000, priced really close to a much bigger favorite in Zach Greinke, actually more expensive, so I would expect Greinke's ownership to dominate his. Priced just a little bit cheaper than King Felix, who is a bigger betting favorite than Scherzer. So, again, probably going to be lower owned than Felix. And all Scherzer does is punch people out. I mean, he is in the top 5 in strikeouts minus walk rate, top 5, second and fifth this year. I mean, like, the guy does it all. And the Padres, good lineup, but low betting total for the game and very right-handed dominant, which is a bad formula for success against the fastball slider combination of Scherzer. Obviously, his changeup has helped him close the gap on retiring left-handed batters, but it's going to be a lot of fastballs and a lot of sliders tonight against this righty-heavy Padres lineup. I'm expecting a lot of punch-outs. I mean, you got double-digit strikeout upside with Scherzer, which is just what you're looking for in GPPs. You get him that, and you get him the W. 7 innings, 10 strikeouts, a W. That's the type of performance that really carries a fantasy team, and I think Scherzer's capable of that tonight.
Yeah. And we've seen Scherzer do that with while giving up some runs and still put up a decent number. So, you know, he's got big-time upside even if he's not pitching at his best. So, next game, Chicago White Sox at the Oakland Athletics. Jesse Chavez here, a favorite over John Danks. As no surprise here, John Danks, as we know, only likes to pitch well against the Tigers. So, Jesse Chavez, minus 160 favorite. 7.5 run total, though. A lot of that due to the fact that this is an Oakland team that just cannot hit lefties. They did all right last night. We got Billy Butler is pretty much your best hitter there against lefties. Josh Reddick not bad against lefties this year either. Outside of that, this lineup as a whole, terrible against lefties. That's not to say I'll be playing John Danks, but that is to say that I don't think there's a viable Oakland stack. They're a hard team to stack anyway with so many first basemen eligible. It's a stay away for me.
Yeah, I think you're trolling me by not mentioning Marcus Semien, but I'll go ahead and get him in there. Problem is the A's just don't have enough good right-handed bats to really stack against Danks, and I think that's a big part of the reason why they've struggled mightily with left-handed pitching this year. Perhaps they have some kind of wonky lineup arrangement that allows for maybe some mini stacks or hooks, but I just don't see a full-blown stack of 4 or 6 because they just don't have the right-handed bats to do it. But if they hit, say, Semien second and Butler third, maybe pair the two of them. I like that because both do hit left-handed pitching really well. Somebody's going to have to score runs and drive them in. That's a nice combination and a good group to expect to do so. Jesse Chavez, most nights I would love Jesse Chavez. 7,500 betting favorite against a White Sox team that's not very good against right-handed pitching, but I'm paying up for pitching tonight. I just don't see the point of dropping down to Chavez. I mean, being different, contrarian, certainly. But in terms of just strictly chasing performance, I think you can do better. I think you can complement your top pitchers with enough cheap, good hitting options that I just don't see a reason to use Chavez tonight. Maybe a single bullet in a GPP, but I'm not going to grab many shares of Chavez, even though I do like him. I mean, he's pitched very well.
Yeah, I'm with you there. There's so many good options. There's really no reason to reach tonight. I'm with you there. Next up, we've got the King on the mound at home against the Boston Red Sox. And as expected, he's a big favorite, minus 170 over Rick Porcello, 6.5 run total. And this is a Boston Red Sox team that there's a conception that people think that they've been a really good offense this year. They've had a couple players who are really good, but as a whole, not very good. I mean, 19th in the league in team WOBA against righties, much, much worse even against lefties. But the good thing they have going for them, only a 16.5% strikeout rate. Got to think that Felix Hernandez finds his way to get plenty of strikeouts tonight. He's one of the best in the game. I think, and I think you agree, second best in the game behind Clayton Kershaw, overall pitcher. I mean, the guy just wins games. He just gets a ton of strikeouts, and he just gets it done. He's so damn efficient. He pitches deep into games. You can say whatever you want about Felix Hernandez tonight. I mean, he's really, really expensive on both sides, but I mean, I don't blame you if you're paying up for him.
Yeah, Felix, my favorite play at DraftKings, second favorite play at FanDuel. Win weighted more heavily at FanDuel, so I'm leaning Greinke there, where Greinke's a bigger batting favorite and cheaper. But on DraftKings, where you get that bonus for the strike, get more points for strikeouts, and you're looking to limit base runners. Love Felix. He's my favorite play there. I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of that Vegas line to get a guy who is a better pitcher than Greinke. Again, no knock against Greinke, but Felix is the second best pitcher in baseball. And enormous strikeout upside, keeps the ball on the ground, doesn't walk hitters, pitches deep into games. I mean, this is an innings workhorse. This is everything you look for from an ace and then some. Has a deep arsenal, so if any of his pitches just aren't working, you just don't throw him that night. You move on to the next pitch. Yep. And, I mean, there isn't anything to not like about Felix. I will be using him in a number of cash games. And I'll stick him in some GPPs too, just because the upside with him is always so great. He can go out there and get you double-digit strikeouts over 8 innings. Forget 7 innings. He's a guy that get 8 innings, could go the distance. I mean, he is a horse, and he's not handled with kid gloves, which is a rarity for pitchers in today's game. Actually gets to get the ball after 100 pitches and continue to mow down hitters. So I really like Felix tonight. On the other side of things, I think there's some stack potential against Rick Porcello. Nelly Cruz can hit pitchers of either handedness. They could be throwing the ball like a seal, and Nelly Cruz would be hitting it.
Cannon. Doesn't matter.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Nelly Cruz is crushing baseballs. He's sandwiched between two lefties who hit right-handed pitching very well in Robinson Cano and Kyle Seager. We'll see what the top of that lineup looks like. Guessing Seth Smith will be up there, probably Austin Jackson. Definitely some stack potential there against Porcello. Porcello's not good against left-handed batters. Improved last year, but overall, since 2012, just not very good against left-handed bats. So I see some stack potential. Don't love the total, but remember that total's brought down quite a bit by Felix being on the hill, and he is a big betting favorite there. So I think that'll turn some people off. Maybe make the M's a viable contrarian mini stack, maybe a full-blown stack if you really want to get a little wild. But I like Felix tonight, and I want nothing to do with Porcello other than picking on him with some bats.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree with all of that. I'm with you. I'll get a little bit of Seattle action tonight at home. They're finally starting to get it going, and you can't blame anyone for taking Nelson Cruz as a standalone either tonight. You got to like that.
Yep.
Final game we've got here is, of course, Zach Greinke, who we've been talking about. Fitting that he comes in at the ends as the biggest favorite. Minus 230 right now. I mean, not quite Kershaw territory, but we'll take it at minus 230. Another 6.5 run total here in Dodger Stadium. And you've got some concerns on the Rockies side. This is a team that hits right-handed pitching much better than they hit left-handed pitching. But Troy Tulowitzki doesn't think his injury serious. He left last night's game with a tight left quad. I don't know if you think he sits out tonight. Either way, you're not playing him because he hasn't been playing well. And he's better against lefties. Greinke's been very good against everyone. He's been really efficient. He's been a guy who's been pitching deep into games. He's not striking out as many batters as you like you mentioned earlier. But, I mean, this is a guy who's gone at least 6 innings in every one of his games. over 7 in 5 of 7. I mean, this is a guy that he just gets it done. Vegas loves him. It's hard not to love him. So with that being said, I'm not touching any Rockies, of course, and I love the Dodgers as a stack against Jorge De La Rosa.
Yeah, I mean, Greinke's the most bankable win tonight. He's a model of consistency in terms of pitching deep into games. So you should pile up innings, should get the win. Probably not going to get a ton of punch outs, but you're going to get a handful. I mean, he can miss bats. He still has really good stuff. And the Rockies do strike out quite a bit against righties. And if Troy Tulowitzki's out tonight, which I would expect if he's going to be, I can't see him in the lineup. They're not going to mess with him, not when it's a quad injury, and we've seen Troy Tulowitzki end up on the DL plenty of times throughout his career. I'm guessing he gets the night off. Let him rest that, especially if there's any consideration of trading him. Obviously, there was talk that he may request a trade, and that didn't happen. But you're not going to race him out there and get him hurt by pushing it. So a Troy Tulowitzki-less Rockies lineup is a joke, basically, especially on the road. Corey Dickerson dealing with plantar fasciitis, so he's at less than 100%. Greinke should have little trouble mowing down this lineup. And then Jorge De La Rosa absolutely lost against right-handed batters. And oddly, a guy who pitches much better at home than on the road. So you get that benefit as well. Goes to Chavez Ravine. Some of the bigger bats in the Dodgers lineup are lefties like Adrian Gonzalez and Jack Peterson. So it could create some unique stacking opportunities. Love Kendrick. Really like Jimmy Rollins based on lineup spot and lineup. Don't necessarily like that he's getting a lefty, but he's a switch hitter, so he gets the positive side of the platoon. Justin Turner, the little Irish-looking man, really can get the job done at third base. Hits lefties pretty hard, so and has moved up in the lineup against left-handed pitchers a bit. And then we all love Scott Van Slyke, so maybe you'd lop Jacques Peterson off of the stack if he continues to hit leadoff, and grab something like a Rollins through Van Slyke or Turner stack. Definitely keep an eye on what this lineup looks like. And we like Yasmani Grandal too. I can't forget to mention him. But I would expect that there is going to be some stack potential here. It's just going to depend on where guys slot, who you get, and how you go about this stack.
Yeah, and I'll throw Alex Guerrero in there too if he gets back in lineup. He's had the last 2 days off, but pinch hit both days. Really cheap on both sites. You can get him second and third base on DraftKings. So big time upside there. And with that, that's going to do it for us. Find us on Twitter at DFCafe. And as always, all of our content on dailyfantasycafe.com for tonight's slate. And we'll see you again next time.